Good afternoon, all. Let me start by saying welcome to those who are attending our webinar today. I'm Nazira, the co-founder and president of Vendorship, Inc. Thank you to our speakers, Subramaniam Muniaswamy and Mr. Randy Shearer, both of them who are here with us today, lending their experience and expertise, again, on the topic of innovation in the state and the federal government. We hope that our discussion will contribute to meaningful and constructive discussion. We are happy to have you here with us this afternoon. And of course, this would not be possible without my team who is in the back end. Neha is helping moderate with the poll questions, and other team members, Sabina, Madhu, Susan, Seema, and Ramya, thank you for joining us and for helping take vendorship into these webinars bi-weekly. So a little brief about the profile for our speakers today. Mr. Subi, if I may, I'm going to address you as Subi, and you are the Chief Technology Officer at the Maryland Department of Human Services, and you have a lot to share, much success factors, and we continue to wish you such success. And your experience in the past and your work has been on IT and project management, and you bring a number of years of dynamic leadership and innovative solutions. So thank you, Mr. Subi, for being with us this afternoon. Randy Shearer, you're my colleague at Vendorship. You are the Director for Federal Contracting with us. But apart from that, you have extensive experience of 35 years of experience in the Department of Defense, business development and federal contracts, and you have much success in helping small businesses and disadvantaged businesses get into the federal government. And I know that people are going to notice your passion of how you want and why you want firms to get into the federal business level. So thank you to both of you for being here. And so my first question, as I usually have during these webinars, is a warm-up question. And Randy, we want to start with you. And if, of course, if there are any technical difficulties, viewers, please bear with us. We'll make sure that it gets addressed. But Randy, my question to you is, what is the one thing or one skill or one lesson you've learned during this lockdown period?
That was for Randy?
Yes, for Randy.
During this current period, unlike we've ever had before, government's always been reticent to work from home. Work from home now is an accepted continuity of operations. With that come a lot of other structure, architecture, measures to prevent loss of data and conveyance of data to at-home work sites and stations. So actually it's perhaps has altered or changed the way I can speak for DOD will continue to do business and is doing it today. Today, 90% of all the workforce in Defense Department is working from home.
Yes, definitely. And I'm thinking from your answer, what you're saying is that it is possible for the government sector to completely go virtual and still maintain. So that's one lesson that you've learned during this time.
I mean, it was a huge obstacle before. It was not even being considered before.
Definitely.
Today it's they're structuring it up. Their policies, procedures, all the underpinnings today are in place or being developed because this is truly continuity of operations.
Definitely. Thank you, Randy. Mr. Subi, how about you? What is that one lesson or one skill you've learned or the lesson that the lockdown has taught you?
Yeah, I completely agree with Randy's comment on that. Yes, one lesson I learned in my 27 years of experience in the IT is how to work from home. I never did that. It is kind of like very new to me. I was not a believer of people working from home prior to this incident. Actually, I am not a believer at all, and I never allowed anybody to work from home. So I always want people to come to office, like it's a project of like 300, 500 people size, doesn't matter. I insisted people to come to office. But this COVID, I learned a really big lesson, how to operate and what are the various small techniques and some of the small minute fine tuning we have to do from the operations perspective to continue our business.
Very
So
nice.
yes, it's effectively working out at this point.
Very nice to be. I think, have you started getting more thank you notes and people have started to like you more?
Some people, yes. Some of the people think like working from home is a more work than work coming to office. So that is something little strange, but that is of course true also, because if you work from home, you have to be available all the time, and you will lose monitoring the time and a lot of other things. So there is a good advantage and disadvantage. But overall, I'm getting more thanks than other people.
I can imagine. So we continue to wish you those good wishes, Subi. So Randy, my next question is: can you talk a little bit more about your current role and responsibility? And also, the reason I'm asking you this is because 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I'm sure some of the viewers were not in the government sector, didn't know it was like something not to be touched. Even Subi or me, keep government away thought process 20 years ago, but at that time itself, you entered into the government sector. So tell us, what is the difference that you are seeing decades ago and now in the federal government?
Well, today it's 90% of everything is commercial services, commercial product. If it's a bomb or a missile, it's not commercial. So it's a clear demarcation, if you will, of very little is, we'll call it mil-spec, military specified, with by and large, everything is commercial. So if you're sitting out there, you're in commercial space, commercial software, productivity apps, ERP systems, innovative research, there's somebody in the federal and certainly in the DoD that's looking for your solutions. So sitting there and thinking I'm all commercial, I'm commercial oriented, that's my lane, the government can't possibly want what I have, that's the first mistake. The second is you've got to find your market.
That right. So Randy,
in all of federal, I'll paint it with one brush. In all of federal, it is all about being commercial.
Got it. So I'm assuming when you mean commercial, you also sort of are bringing up the corporate sector. So you're basically saying the firms that are doing current business with the corporate sector have an opportunity to start looking at especially the federal government sector. But give me one or 2 points that you've noticed over when you were in 20 years ago. I'm thinking might be the computers were still like this large and the phones were this big. So how are you managing to adapt to the developing technology in the federal sector?
Well, it's really, there's nothing restrictive about it. In any, we'll call it a niche offering, special technology, special engineering, any kind of specialty that will enhance the mission or the productivity of a federal agency. You've got to find the individual that handles that, manages that, perhaps has funding for it. It actually becomes who's my customer, where are they at, who can help me find them, and then can I tailor this for the federal, or does it cut right over and have federal application? So it's not so much that I have something here that I believe enhances all organizations. The challenge is, how do I find a federal place for it, a program office, a program manager, an overarching entity that needs what I'm offering. So it's all about finding, if anything, by and large, everyone's going to need federal, I'm being general here, is going to need what you have.
Definitely. Thank you, Randy. You basically saying the mission for the federal government hasn't changed, except the tools have been uploaded or updated. So thank you. Subhi, what about you? Tell us your current role and responsibilities in your State Department, and how do you think has the outlook changed in the last decade or two?
Yes. I have been in the State Department for the past 5 years. In the state, always, like a lot of technologies are like very, very old technology, as you mentioned, but at least these are all whatever right now we hear is kind of like the 80s and 90s technology. But in the past 20 years, the technology has changed a lot. So to keep up with all the cutting edge technology and the changes from the regulations, whatever is needed to do up to date, the Maryland governor has a vision of like transforming a lot of government agencies, like the state government agency, to go digital. So as part of that, on March 9th of 2017, he did some announcement of like we are going to build something called the MD Think platform. The MD Maryland Think stands for Total Human Services Integrated Network. Especially whenever there are some kind of crisis like this COVID or any other problem comes, people always look for like who are these type of people, what kind of benefit they're receiving from there, how to trace those people or how to help those people. To get all those kind of knowledge, we need some kind of good data platform which was not available. In order to get some information, you need to just go and hunt around multiple department and multiple data centers to collect the data.
So, Subi, can I ask just one question while you continue your thought? Did he announce? I'm sure, were you a part of that coalition or the committee that provided that you all needed this platform, or was it like how did he just out of the blue announce it, or was it an initiative that was going on and then the announcement came?
Yeah, it was like a long thought process went behind the scene actually. Before the announcement, almost like more than a year, people are working and coming up with the vision of like what needs to be done to the state of Maryland, not only for this state, across the nation. Every state is trying to do something like that. So there is a big thought process went behind some good advisors who has some good experience technically as well as some kind of human services and the resident need. Those folks provided some kind of ideas, and as a result of that, this came out. And for the state, what we did is, since this is kind of like a first attempt to do any innovation like this, and also to secure the fund from federal government and the state government, we need to put together some kind of document called the advanced planning document. Whoever in the government, they know about this. So the fund has been secured in the February of 2017, and then I got hired to implement it. I'm a field general to implement that vision. So that is how I came into play. This is a roughly like it's over a $400 million project over 5 years. Our initial goal is to build all the total human services like the child support, child welfare, adult welfare, and integrated eligibility system, which provides services to the SNAP, the food stamp, cash, and Medicaid programs. So these are all the various type of people. If you're really seeing more than 1/3 of the Maryland population in some shape or form receiving benefit from the state government, if we have a system which can connect all those things together, so you already have the complete information of like more than 1/3 of the government population into the system. So anytime anything you need, we will be able to pull the information and find out what is happening and how we can avoid some of the fraud, waste, and abuse what is going across the nation. So all those things came into play, and we are almost halfway, more than halfway through to the completion of the program. We do have 2 years to complete it.
Very nice, Subi. It was so wonderful to listen to the innovation being played in the state of Maryland through your leadership. The key question I have for you is: was this a position that you had envisioned? Did you work towards this position, or is this something you liked working for the government? Because as far as I know, the technology gurus or technology geeks or technology IT people are more into like I can code tomorrow, and they're not good at slow process. They want to see results like yesterday. They can't wait till tomorrow. So what made you decide that because any platform in the government is going to be a little bit outdated. So I want to know what made you decide to go for this position.
Yeah, actually, like before coming into this position, as a result of the Obamacare exchange built up, that is where it was kind of like a big challenge Maryland faced. It was kind of like a failure at the first implementation. To rectify that, they hired me. That is the time I joined the government. Prior to that, I was working for private sectors. So that time I thought, okay, let me take the position government and see like how it is. The opportunity came on my way after giving some kind of good thought process. Let me also just jump onto the other side and see what are the various benefits and how people are getting benefit out of what is the work we are doing. So that is how I jumped as a CIO for Health Benefit Exchange. That was my first government position. But I am a strong believer any work you come across your way, if you put your heads down and consistently prove you are able to capable of delivering things, the rest of the things will pile up on your way. So that is what is happening. This particular job, because of the type of work and enhancement and what are the various things I have implemented in the health benefit exchange, there's a different agency. From governor's office, they are trying to find out some right people to run this uh, mega program. So they identified me, and then they pushed me from that position to this to run this program. So that is how I ended up in here. With my background of this complete technology, I thought this may be a good opportunity to turn around the government framework of the regular way of doing business. Right now, to be honest, I can say it very proudly. We are the first one in the nation. We implemented the child welfare solution statewide the last weekend within 27 months from the start to end.
Very nice, congratulations. And I can already envision the team that has been very hyped up behind you to make this happen, or with the team with you. So thank you, Subi, for elaborating on the proposal, and we'll continue to discuss as we move forward. Randy, the question I have for you is, you do want firms, and you've been saying this before, to invest in the federal government business, right? I want to know why. And for those who are not investing in the federal contracting business, especially the IT firms, or other commodity firms, what are the opportunities they are missing out on, Randy?
Well, first of all, if you look at the down cycle now, and all you were in was commercial, the offset would have been revenue, contracts, et cetera, from the federal could offset some of your commercial losses. A lot of commercial firms right now are begging forgiveness, asking for deferred payments, asking their IT third parties to change the agreements, to forego their monthly payments. The offset is, or would be for many, is if you are in the federal space, it's actually a growth track right now. So if you see what balances you out, it's an equal or a distribution between commercial and defense or government business. So I'm not sure if that answered your question or not, but there's reasons to be in both. It's best for your business health to be in both. And certainly if you're in defense or federal, you're in the largest market in the world. How can you not be in the largest market in the world? Does it take time and investment? It does. I tell all my clients now for 19 years, if you're not in the federal space now, it takes 12 to 18 months for your first contract.
Definitely. So what would an ideal federal client look like, who has no bumps? He's straightforward. He's getting all the, he has everything prepared. He has the credibility, he or she, in the IT firm. And what would that ideal firm look like?
The ideal firm would be a small disadvantaged business, probably an SBA certified 8A or service disabled veteran or woman-owned or historically underutilized business zone. They would probably have a special certification, and therefore they would have contract advantages. The 8A and even some of the other ones, we'll call them subcategories, actually can capture sole source contracts. Sole source contracts for services right now is $4 million. For manufacturing is $7 million. So a non-competed contract is available. It's out there. It's anticipated by the SBA and the government that a fair amount, up to 3 to 5% of all federal dollars, let's go for an example here, will be placed in the hands of small disadvantaged businesses. So there are goals for each subcategory. It's good to be in one of those subcategories. If you're just a small business, that doesn't mean you don't have the opportunities, but you don't have the preferred contract advantage.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Randy. You've given several reasons for those listening or those who would be listening in to our recorded version, reasons to start thinking to go into the federal government and start getting some of those certifications if that is their goal. So Subi, let me come with this question to you. So when we talk about the government, I've been in the local county government in the political arena as well as the programmatic administrative side as well. And so I have the experience of the local county, city, and state collaborative experience. But tell me, when a normal person, when he or she talks about government, irrespective of whether in the IT firm or technology or not, they usually refer it to the federal government. So is that a myth we have to bust, that there are other governments that exist, such as the state and county and the cities, or just is that something that will be taken care of itself?
No, you are right. As Randy mentioned, the reason people are thinking government is a federal government because of we are paying a lot of tax to federal government, and also any project coming out from federal government is a big dollar projects. That is what like strikes the minds of the people like who are in the market to capture some good pie from the federal government. The state and local government, generally the thought process is they have like a little money. The amount of money they are going to spend on any of the projects is not enough, or it may not be worth going behind it. So that is the general thought. But everybody missing one aspect. Every project funded or done in state government has a federal portion also involved. It is not like 100%. All the projects are not 100% from the state or local government. There is for the very local county government, there is a state portion is there as well as federal portion is there. It's very much similar to the state government also. For example, the project what we are running is a MD program. Roughly, I would say like is 65 percentage of the fund comes from federal, and the 35 to 36 percentage fund comes from state. So any of the vendors who are listening, if they understand this concept, I think most of the people already know, but this is like kind of like reinforcing the thought process and idea. That way, you will be able to see, yes, there is a good chunk of opportunity available in the state as well as in the local.
Definitely. So yes, you're right. So many of the local projects themselves do have some federal as well as the state. So it all stems from the federal level of funding. But then local government does have its own funding for projects to improve quality services within their government sector, ultimately to produce for the citizens, improved quality services. So definitely that's something that people have to consider. So when we mean government, not to miss out on the local and the state government opportunities that is available. So Subi and Randy, every government has, and I think we all have, we three have that commonality of having working or have worked or continuing to work in the government sector. So the four commonalities that we see in each government sector, irrespective of local, federal, or state, is the personnel who are working in the government, the administrators, sometimes they're referred to as the bureaucrats, who continue to make things happen irrespective of which leadership or administration is in place, right? Then the policies in the government sector, the policies that are set up that you can do this, do that, do this. This is how it's done. The processes help keep it sustainable and then the platform, the innovation, what is the platform? The communication is used, the innovation is used, and then of course The P, as you can see, the personnel politics platform. Number 4, P is the politicians that make it happen, which it clearly shows from Subi, from your testimony just now, that there was supportive leadership from top. So I also want to talk about innovate. The question for you, Subi, is let's talk about the innovation. Though these are the 4 commonalities that every government has, but innovation can be operational, technology or the process. So what do you think? You mentioned briefly about your Maryland. What are the trends out? What are the trends that are happening in innovation across state governments? Now that you're in the state government, I'm sure you're collaborating with the California at some point. Can you talk us some trends that you're seeing or that we can expect to happen? The reason I'll tell you why, the reason I'm asking this question, the basis for this question is because we had a mayor of a city recently in our webinar, and he mentioned that almost 90% of the cities in the state are not digitized. So it was a total chaos when COVID-19 happened. And certainly, people don't do it on purpose, that you want to see the government shut down. So if you can shed some light on how important innovation is and what are the trends you're seeing.
Yeah, I can I can go first in this.
Go ahead.
The innovation is very, very important, especially this COVID-19 pandemic situation in our lifetime. There are people born in 1900s, like those people might have went through like a crazy amount of pandemic situation. There's a First World War, Second World War, there is some Spanish flu, this flu, that flu. They might have went through a lot. But at least in the past 50, 60 years, this is kind of like a very big impact. Did a lot of disruption, after the big war, whatever, in the 1950, 60, 42, whatever. After that, this is one of the biggest impact. So now, what we are all seeing at our generation is this COVID is really created a big impact and big disruption to the way we do business, as well as any work in a day-to-day activity itself got disrupted. For example, like the minute Maryland governor announced exactly, okay, there is a COVID kind of situation, schools are closed, people has to find out a way to work from home, all those kind of announcement came. But since we are in the IT field, okay, now I have a job to make sure like exactly like how to make this happen. A lot of caseworkers does not even have a computer at home. So how to make that happen? So in the past, the Department of Human Services in Maryland, we do have close to 6,500 to 7,000 workers. And we find out like who are all people need some kind of laptop, all those things. We almost procured like 3,000 laptops in like 2-3 weeks time frame. And then we provided some kind of support, how to connect the laptop from home into the office network and then do their job. So all those things becomes like a big challenge. But because of the digital innovation, whatever we already have or we are halfway through, we are able to leverage that to make an attempt to really help these folks in a short period of time. Otherwise, if we have to build a lot of things from the scratch to use the AWS to connect all those things becomes very difficult. So we are still halfway through. It's not fully digitized. But within the next 2 years, we will be, I can proudly say and announce that we will be fully digitized, at least in the Department of Human Services. And to answer a second question, like how are other states doing with this? Well, we are trying to compare with the other states. We are doing like far better because we are already into that halfway through. Right now in this state, whatever we did for the child welfare implementation, now the new child welfare worker, this weekend we went statewide, all the child welfare worker, we have provided some kind of iPad. The people can carry the iPad, sit in the car, go to the incident wherever there is a problem occurred, take a picture of that place, and then just upload the document, collect the data, all those things they are able to do in the car, remote, from home, anywhere they want to operate. So we are almost halfway through. There are some rest of the other programs also we are in the process of implementing. All other states, almost, I do not know, maybe some state I'm hearing some portion of Los Angeles side as well as in the Colorado. They did something. They are also like us, like halfway through. But most of the states are still very behind. They are all literally struggling, or because of the kind of situation, some state workers are forced to come to office because of there is no technology or innovation happen in that state. So this is the type of situation across the state, but especially in the Department of Human Services business itself. If people are thinking about the opportunity, it's going to be like even Maryland, whatever we are doing is a very similar thing going to happen across all the 50 states. It means the amount of dollar, whatever is going to roll across the 50 states, is almost very much similar to Maryland. The state like Texas or California, they are kind of country on their own, like a big, that may be like a multifold. But overall, in a nutshell, if you're taking the leverage or average across the board, it's going to be like a $500 million business only for Department of Human Services across all the 50 states.
Wow. So thank you so much for educating us on that. And are you already receiving job offers from other states, Subi?
That is true. But I just want to finish off the task what I started. So I will be sticking around here for next at least 2 years.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Job will be totally complete. Then I can get released. Or I do not know. At that time, nobody may need me.
Okay. No, definitely they would. Your experience would speak volumes. So wish you the best, Subi. Randy, so how, do you want to chime in to the question that we just asked, which was, go ahead.
I could speak for defense. Every major buying center now has an innovation unit. They run once a quarter. They run like a Shark Tank event. Their goal is to spend $3 million or more in the span of 8 hours.
Wow.
And they've been successful so far. Many show up to make presentations in the form of a white paper or other. None of them really have a hard tangible. And the minimum, in general, the minimum contract is written for $50,000 to move from concept to the next level, if you will, the next level of the technology, form, fit, function, etc. So if you drill in or Google defense innovation, you're going to find they're scattered all over the country. They hold quarterly events. They have budget, and the goal is to get as many new and innovative product or services on contract as rapidly as possible.
Wow, that's amazing. So that's some information that definitely the private sector needs to look at if they need to see immediate revenue with their innovation. So definitely someone to communicate with to understand more. Randy, tell us what is the role that federal government plays because it makes sometimes the overall policies for federal programs which the states have to implement. Do you think innovation is in the top focus area for the federal government so it can trickle down to the state, county, and city?
I'll just go with what I know on that. Innovation, we've capitalized innovation now for 5 to 7 years. Certainly it's in line with our commercial solutions, commercial product and services. Right now we're throwing a lot of money. I'll say we, the federal, and certainly DOD is throwing a tremendous amount of budget at R&D and innovation. For years, we'll say previous administration, R&D was underfunded, and now it's robustly funded. Every organization, every service has its own innovation group, all the way at the Pentagon level. They're getting, we'll call it their grade card evaluated by the new disruptive and different solutions. This is a grade now, and they actually will say, and they expect a high failure rate. So every program is not going to be geared for success. Reality. So there's a real sobering look now at innovation saying if only 10% of those we contract for, only 10% of those add value, give us an exponential advantage, then it's worth it. So this is a lot of focus on tank-like events, and there's probably one here somewhere nationally in Austin, Texas, or Columbus, Ohio, going on within the next 30 days.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Randy. What you're saying is definitely innovation is in their top tier of focus areas for the federal government. And yes, we all have to agree every innovation is not going to be successful. There's always going to be a trial and error, and government has quick money available for those who want to show their product or service that's innovative. So thank you, Randy. I want to talk about having been working in the government, some of the obstacles that doesn't allow us to, to achieve our goals, or probably because we're talking about innovation. So let's get to that, the barriers for innovation in the government sector, right? And it could be lack of financial stability or rewards. There is no, the political environment, as we talked about, the control that each department would have, so they're not willing to collaborate and share their data, and sometimes we are in the public view, in the public eye. So what in your effect are other obstacles? The ones that I mentioned are very common, along with COVID-19. What other obstacles do you see, because you're working on it, and how do you overcome those obstacles?
Oh, okay, I'll take it. See, as you mentioned, that is true. Sometimes the local, small government want to operate on their own. I would call them as a very independently they want to operate, rather than saying the control. The reason there is, they enjoyed, that is how standard, that is how they operated for long years. But overall, what I found out is the lack of education is the key, because in our overall implementation aspect, the key thing what we are really facing trouble is the organizational change management. That's called OCM. So that is where we found, okay, we have to spend a little bit more energy and effort to make sure that we are able to educate the people, from the case worker, the field worker, the supervisor, the county directors, county executive, and then come up to the state level to make sure everybody is lined up properly, so that you will be clearly aim and hit the target. So that kind of the organization change management is the struggle we are all facing, actually, because nobody want to do a change unless otherwise it is mandated or they don't have choice. So instead of giving multiple choices, sometimes we have to give only very simple one or two choice, and then ask them to pick and then move on. And this kind of innovation time to implement, we need to have very, very strict mandate from the top to bottom. It's like a not bottom-up approach. It doesn't work well. That is my experience. Sometimes it might have worked well for somebody else or some other situation. But what I experienced in the last 5 years is the top-down approach is working very well. Unless otherwise, it is not something like people does not want. Right now, I can tell you, with the COVID situation, even we initially planned before COVID, in the past 3-4 months, 10 counties, we need to deploy the child welfare solution. But because of COVID, the local government people said, we need to get deployed right now. You please deploy it. We are ready to take the product. They are willing to accept the change. But prior to COVID, the speed of accepting the change is not the same as during COVID. So that sometimes that gives us some kind of good opportunity to implement the change in a very high speed. They really realized, yes, this innovation, whatever we are trying to do, is really going to help the citizens, children, adults, everybody in need. For example, what happened because of the COVID, a lot of people lost their job, right? So the food stamp application, generally in Maryland, we get a 25 to 30,000 application per month. But during the month of April, we received close to 140 to 150,000, which is a 4 to 5 fold increase in the application submission. and people were struggling to submit their application. Now, like because that is where a lot of people from the resident as well as the stakeholders and all the government people they will realize how to do the solution to make it happen right. So that is another aspect of doing this. The organizational change and the operational efficiency improvement needs to be taught and spend some kind of good amount of money and training. The people does not want to do a change because they are afraid they may do some mistake. They're going to get audited by the auditors. It is going to come in the paper. That is where a lot of people are afraid not to do any change, just to follow the status quo, sit tight, and pass the time. So these are the external forces is making them not to accept the challenge. They won't take it. So that is the reality. We all have factors. And in order to overcome that, we need to give some kind of comfort and education and support. Then we are able to overcome. My project, it is so happened from top to bottom. We have like a very good support, and also we spend some good amount of energy and time to educate and move forward. That is my
Very good.
perception.
Key ingredient factors is to you respected their value, the team's value or the employee's value. I'm sure you would get their feedback on how it should move forward and implement it to see what worked. But definitely continuous education prevents that fear, the unknown fear of whether they're going to lose their job. So a good job across all industries. I think this is one thing that most of the leaders and the leadership should learn the importance of their employees or staff to make things happen without much disruptions. So
Yeah.
good job, Sudhi. Randy, let's talk about CMMC. The reason I'm coming straight to certification is because previously you mentioned about 8A and women-owned and the disadvantaged business opportunities in the federal government. But cybersecurity maturity model certification, which is also called acronym CMMC, is the Department of Defense's continuous quality improvement program. So tell us a little bit more of who should start thinking about it if they want to go into federal government.
Okay, thanks. This is a big topic right now across all of the defense industrial base. Right now, they're training the first 60 certifiers. Courseware is being developed collaterally, as is the method of distribution. Basically, the CMMC will be a requirement to hold a government contract, first for defense and then the other federal agencies. The Defense Department is the lead agency. You'll begin to see requests for information and requests for proposals this fall, and it will call out a minimum level, a level of certification. There are 5 levels, levels 1 through 5, 1 being basic hygiene to level 5 being the most demanding, the most proactive, the most threat-oriented, if you will. Most of the 350,000 defense industrial base will be levels 3 or lower. Many will be just level 1. Level 1 has 15 controls. Level 3 has 130 controls. To get a CMMC certification on your wall, you'll have to be third-party certified. So right now there's we'll call it influx, a running towards this requirement, if you will, to be either a preparer for the CMMC level or a certifier certifying the work of the preparers. So some will attempt, some firms will be prepared on the one hand to be preparers, on the other hand be certifiers. You can't certify your own work, but you could do one or the other across the 350,000. So after the domestic defense industrial base, this will spread around the world to any firm involved in the DoD supply chain.
Okay, so thank you, Randy. So basically, you're saying that this certificate is to prove how good a firm is to protect or identify or discredit the
and I missed a key point there. They call it controlled unclassified information. It's not classified.
Yes.
It is controlled unclassified. For 4 years now, firms have self-certified that they handle CUI, controlled unclassified information, with certain safeguards and risk mitigation. The self-certification on that is now over. You have to have third-party certification that you can manage CUI, controlled unclassified information, protect it, no compromising of it, no loss of it. If there are incidents that are reported, there's a whole slew of activities coming in for a firm that wants to be in defense business and that likely has CUI.
Okay.
The counter side, and I can speak for being in defense, is if it looks like CUI, it walks like CUI, it's going to be CUI. So you're going to see a slew of it. It's going to proliferate across RFPs and RFQs. And there'll be a case coming soon where if you don't have this CUI level, even on your own work, you can't bid.
Definitely. So, I'm thinking this is for their quality control purposes, Randy, because already people are moving away from federal level contracting because of the various levels that exist. So it feels like this is another. Do people think this is another layer that federal government is putting? So it only restricts to those same people again and again in getting contracts, or is it an opening? Is it a window of opportunity for others to jump in at this time?
Well, it's an opportunity for folks that are in cyber commercial to cut over to defense, pitch the aerospace and defense community. There will never be enough certifiers. They hope to have 10,000. This will take a while. They're doing their first 60 now. So if you want to be in the CMMC business and be a preparer, and go through the courseware and be certifier, we're at the front end of that right now. This won't even run its full course until 2025, and that's before they even consider those that are offshore.
Definitely, thank you.
The going, I'll just put the number out. It looks like it's going to be 3,000 to 4,000 to be certified at level 1, 8,000 to 10,000 to be at level 3, 15 or more, and this is general, to be a level 5. This is what a certifier will net by doing the evaluation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for providing that information about CMMC, something that you would want to talk to us or Randy to see how to move forward. So Subi, let's come back to, you talked about the top leadership, importance of top leadership in moving forward in achieving the goals. How important is diversity or learning from failures and sometimes not giving up as important as enhancing customer experience? Or sometimes in the government, if you see bringing a contractor from outside to do the work, sometimes doesn't provide the solutions, and the solution existed right within their staff who worked hard year after year. So sometimes they have the best solutions. So how do you involve these into a project success?
Yeah, sometimes the diversity is good, sometimes it is not, based on the complexity and type of program you're running. If, for example, let us say this is $100 million project. If we give like some bits and pieces to like 5 different vendors, let us say, something goes wrong, everybody going to point towards others. Okay, so just that is one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is a good to share the with the multiple vendors. Due to some reason one vendor is not performing well, we know like we can just shut him down and leverage the other vendors. So that is the advantage of that. But it has like it's a double-edged sword. What we are doing here is, like government, after I took this position under my leadership, we started taking all the risk and we became the system integrator to implement. So we do have some 15 different vendors. Their goal is to only provide the right resources what we are asking for. Other than that, they do not have any of the accountability of any of the delivery or implementation aspect, nothing. But they have to provide the good resources. We will interview and hire. So this is the aspect, like in moving forward, the one vendor getting a major junk that may not happen. because of that, as you said, the diversification is going to help because to mitigate the risk. That is the route majority of the companies or the government sectors is going to go to mitigate some of the risk, not to give everything to one vendor and hold up and get stuck with that. So that is there. But diversification wise, it is good and bad based on like how we are able to manage it. At the end of the day, all vendors is buying a new car. Doesn't matter whether you buy Ford or Hyundai or Toyota, Honda. As long as you know how to maintain, follow the proper maintenance schedule, every car is going to run good. How you treat the car is going to treat you back. So that is my philosophy there. And as long as you are able to manage that in a proper way, in a very consistently, you will be able to achieve what you want to achieve.
Definitely. So, Subi, the other question I had is how important is citizen engagement in this process, right? Even though you talked about MD Think, sometimes all the citizen wants is doesn't want to go to the department and wait in a queue to get a birth or a death certificate, right? So it's as simple as, can I just click and I have a credit card? Can I pay and I just print it out? That's all they want from their government. So have you included all those requirements in, and how important is it to have that citizens engaged in what you're trying to improve?
Yes, absolutely. It is very important. At the end of the day, whatever we are trying to do is for whom? Is for the citizens. They have to feel happy with the service what they are getting. It's very important. For example, while we are building it, what we did is we started including one of the local government director as part of the process, and we made him as a product owner. So this is like a generally no state in the nation has done like that. But while we are building it, we realize the importance of, because they are the one who is really dealing with the citizen in a daily basis. I went to the county offices and how they are running the business, how important, what are the small problems they are facing. As you said, sometimes, okay, you are applying for child welfare, okay, give me the same SSN card, I will take a copy of it and upload the document there. Oh, you are applying for some of the child support or integrated eligibility, some SNAP benefit, the same, they have to bring the same information again, they are scanning and putting it, because of the systems are in silo. So these are all some of the biggest thing. The same citizen has to come and provide the same document for three different services multiple times. That is becoming a big hard for the citizens as well as to the caseworker. It's kind of unnecessary work. SSN card verification is a one-time event. Once you collected it, it has to be available to verify 1,000 times as long as they are alive. Doesn't matter, 1,000 times, 2,000 times. So that kind of things we are taken very clearly into account while we are building the system. Are we building the 100% right system? Probably not, but we are doing our best approach to make sure the residents are getting a right benefit with the right amount of information they are providing, to avoid any duplicate data entry. Because anytime you collect the same information twice or thrice, there is some kind of discrepancy going to ended up in some kind of fraud, waste, and abuse category. So we are trying to avoid all those things. We have taken all the people, the residents, into account, as well as the caseworker who is doing the job in a day-to-day basis. They are all a part of our design process. This is something which never done before, but in the past 2 years we started doing that. We face some challenges, but it is a good challenge to face, to have the product right. And now because of that usage, all the other local county directors want the product to be accepted fast, because they know that the other local county director was part of the process and they are able to really do it right.
Definitely.
So the confidence they have on their own colleague is much more higher than the confidence they have on me or anybody else who is not a part of the day-to-day business. So that is how we influence, and it is really worked out well.
Very good. Definitely. It's like putting music in our ears when you say there's collaboration happening, the government is listening, and we want to provide solutions. So, Randy, one question I have for you is several firms have questions before they get into the federal marketing contract. contracting market or even the state level. And the thing is, they say, so I do have offshore resources, I do have offshore help. Will the government accept the offshore coding or help that I bring in for the federal government? Can you shed some light on that?
Well, you're going to want to have a U.S. flag entity. You're going to have a flag planted. You're probably going to have it in what they call System for Award Management, SAM.gov. You're going to have a DUNS number. You're going to have an address stateside. You're going to want to position, I'm giving you a small business size, if you will. You're going to want to have a small business entity inside the US of A and registered to SAM.gov. These are fundamental steps to even begin to pursue a contract with the federal.
Definitely. And so I'm talking about a person who would have all of that, who has stepped into the federal sector to an extent. But the question is, will they be able to put into the contract offshore resources instead of maybe onshore is 60% and 20% offshore, or is that something that the federal government doesn't appreciate?
No, that's fine. It's done every day. It just has to be more than a post office box in the United States. It has to be an entity, probably has on-site management, may have production in the back room, may have personnel assigned, even if they're assigned infrequently and they come from offshore to onshore. There's a presence there, a consistency. If a defense agency wants to do a site survey, it looks real. So a lot of these foreign firms want to have, we'll call it a facade or a post office box, or say they have a U.S. flag. They got to be subject to an on-site evaluation, a field survey, from defense contract management or audit agencies. So if they've seen beyond the game, it's best to be legitimate. It's best to have a separate operating unit or a sibling, if you want, of the parent with a flag planted in the United States.
Very nice. You're talking about a hybrid model that the federal government does accept. So you're answering a lot in here with just one small question. Are they able to bring in their offshore resources? And having experience in the federal government, you're saying that is something that is accepted and welcomed in a hybrid level, as long as they have a good entity standing in the local.
It's very routine. It's very routine. You don't take it lightly. You like to locate your office near your customers, your potential customers.
Definitely.
We've got relationships, so why wouldn't I be locating my business unit near where my preferred or likely customers are? So that's what you would want, a little bit of help in selecting where you plant your flag.
Definitely. Thank you so much. So Subi, I know we have to leave in next two or I want to make sure we keep in time. But the final question I have for both of you, or closing comments, if you may, but how does a firm, state government or any government that matter, how does it sustain innovation?
Yes, let me take it. Yes, this is not a end to any of the work, whatever we are doing. It has to be like a very continuous and consistent process. We need to continue. I would suggest, this is kind of discussion internally also we had. Generally, if we have to put like a 20%, this is kind of like buying a car or anything, you have to take some small amount and put it for maintenance. That way, you will be able to sustain for a longer period. Otherwise, if you don't do the maintenance and the enhancement as and when something goes or any technology coming, you have to keep upgrading the system. So 20%, at least 15 to 20%, based on how is your financial thing looking on your state government. If you can allocate that fund towards the technology, you will be able to keep up with the technology and sustain it. Otherwise, anything you do now, it is going to be obsolete within 7 to 10 years.
Very well said. And thank you again, Subi, for your time with us today and wonderful work that you're doing in the state of Maryland. And I hope you, show as a model for many other states and counties to as we move forward. So, Randy, any final comments from you for this webinar?
It takes patience. It pays off in the long run. If you're small, and maybe you can be a subcategory, call it 8A, small disadvantaged business or woman-owned. Get with your local SBA and find out the way ahead for you, because it takes some time to get in defense.
Definitely, and definitely reach out to Vendorship. That's what we do. We make the contracting process easy in the state, federal, or the city level. Randy's on our team as well, so reach out to us with any questions. But thank you so much. Have a safe evening for now. And Subi and Randy, thank you much for your time, and we appreciate it.
You're welcome.
For the knowledge you gave us today.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.